From a Leeds primary school to the Royal Albert Hall, one instrument changed this man's life and he's determined to make a difference for all his fellow musicians and those on their way up. So how does a Yorkshire kid with callous hands and a sitar end up defining an ancient tradition?
Yeah, you get calluses. Look, if you look at my fingers, you can see them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you get them. So your skin hardens up. So I picked it up and tried it. And then just never looked back.
What does it really take to perform on stage for an hour?
An hour concert that I would play would be 90% improvised on the spot.
And why are building pipelines for the next generation a must for this composer?
This is my goal now, is to build an infrastructure in this country where Indian classical musicians can make a career for themselves without having to do all the other extra things as well.
I'm trying to reach 25,000 subscribers by the end of the year. If you value the history and content that we uncover through expert voices, lost stories, and historical deep dives, don't forget to subscribe and be part of the journey. So let's get into it. To start with, what I want to get a really good idea of is, can you, as we always do, go to the beginning, kind of what was your family life like? What was your upbringing like? What were some of the interests or key moments as a child that molded you into the music aficionado that you are today? And how did that all kind of begin, I guess?
So I'm obviously, I was born in Leeds, as you can tell from the accent probably. So I come from like a proper, I'd say, Tate Punjabi family. Growing up with Bhangra, growing up with just standard normal Punjabi family. My mum and dad are both from India, so they came over, and so we're first generation.
Yeah. And what decade did they come over?
So my dad came over, I think, in the 1980s, I'd say.
Okay,
and then my mum as well. Yeah,
a little bit later on. Because a lot of migration in this country is like 50s, 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
Oh, wow,
so we're first generation. So we were very traditional in our upbringing. So obviously we used to go to the Gurdwara every Sundays, and but we're not uber religious in terms of my family. Like they religious in the sense that we'd go to Gurdwara every time and kind of thing, but not from an Amritari family or anything. So I'd seen kind of music at the Gurdwara through Kirtan and like watching films and things, and I always kind of really liked it. But then when I was in primary school, there was an option to do singing and tabla lessons, harmonium and.
Oh wow! At your primary school.
At my primary school,
and this is a normal state primary school.
Yeah.
Oh wow! Incredible.
Because there's an organisation called South Asian Arts, SAR UK, that's based in Leeds, and they used to organise the some teaching in the primary schools of North Leeds. So I just happened to be in that catchment area.
And do they still do that?
Not anymore, unfortunately, not in the schools. And from there, so my current teacher's his wife, this Gunwant Kaur, she's called. She used to teach in my school, and I put my hand up for the tabla classes as well as the singing classes, and then they put me in the singing one, because I think I was the only boy to put my hand up for the singing as well.
Oh yeah.
So because I was just like, okay, I'll try it, I'll do it, and then it was just playing harmonium, so you just learned the kind of things, and I just loved it. Never used to leave the music room. And apparently I just really, really enjoyed it, and then they said, okay, we can see that you're really interested. Why don't you come to the classes at the Gurdwara that they do on Tuesday evenings? So I started going there, and then joined Saturday music school. Went to the summer school, so I just got more and more involved.
That's amazing.
And that's how it all kind of started, really.
That's mad. I think what is really, it's almost bittersweet in a sense, which is that it's amazing to hear that you had those opportunities at such a young age and that they were providing this type of extracurricular activity in the school.
Yeah.
And equally, we had Jassa Aluwalia on recently, and he was talking about the same thing. He was saying that he was at school in Leicester, and I've forgotten his name now, but it's why the Darbar Festival was kind of started.
Yeah.
But there was like one of the best.
Gurmeet Singh Virdi.
That's it. He was the tabla player.
Yeah.
He was teaching them.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of now bitter that, like, we're obviously of a similar age and just as of the same age as us, which is we benefited a lot from it. Yeah. Like, we can see how it's helped you come to where you are, and you can see where it helped him get to where he is. And now those opportunities don't exist, and that is the sad bit, because we want to see as many people like yourself from the community and even from outside the community continue. As a kid, though, when you're learning the vajra, you're playing the tabla, you're singing, was it just like, I really enjoy this, I love this, I just want to keep doing it? Or did you kind of look at this like, you know what, I can make, like, my future could be this?
Yeah, yes and no. So obviously, when you're at primary school, you don't even think.
Yeah,
you
you're
just
not
think
even
about,
bothered.
I want to do it. I want to
Yeah,
try
yeah.
and get good at it. And I was encouraged. My teacher Gunwantanti, and her husband, who's my Ustad now, Ustad Tarambir Singh, they really pushed and encouraged us. All the kids actually, they had they used to run the summer schools, and there was probably around at least 30 to 40 regular, really good students in Leeds just alone. And that was sitar, tabla, esraj, all these, they were all the instruments that were kind of being taught at the summer schools, and the regular kind of teaching outside of the primary schools. So it's just with their encouragement, they really tried to get as many opportunities for us. My Ustad set up the Samuel and Tarang, which is the National Youth Orchestras. It set up the Yorkshire Young Musicians, which was at Leeds College of Music. He used to run the Indian Classical Music lecture at Leeds College of Music as well.
Wow.
So he helped set up Darbar as well.
Oh, wow.
He used to teach with Gurmeet Singh Virdi in Leicester. So so it was that kind of cohort of them musicians who are from India who came over and were teaching music. That generation has meant that there's a whole generation below them, like Rupa Panesar, there's Kirpal Panesar, there's Gurden Raya, Harkirat Bara, there's Shahbaz Hussain, there's Bhupinder Chagar. There's a whole load of musicians, and a lot more as well. I'm sorry, I didn't take their names. That have benefited from that generation of teaching, if you know what I mean. So, unfortunately, that it doesn't exist in the same way now. For kind of, if there was a kid who was like me that doesn't come from that type of family, I think is a little more difficult. Yeah.
You were listing off those instruments, and you said one at the end that I've never heard of. What is that?
Which one?
You said sitar, tabla, vajra, and then something.
Israj.
Yeah, what's that?
Israj is like a dilruba. Dilruba? Yeah. So Israj is a kind of small variation on a dilruba. So it still looks like a dilruba.
Oh, man, okay.
You get Taus dilruba, Israj. They're all kind of the same family of bod instruments.
And if you can play the dilruba, would you be able to play that?
Probably, yeah. But if you're learning classically, you'd probably want to just stick on one instrument and just try get as good as you can on that.
Fair.
That's the best.
So you spoke about how you got exposure to tabla, vajra, singing at a really young age. You now are, your main instrument is a
sitar.
So how did that transition happen? And also, what made you go, I want to play a sitar?
Yeah. So I was a vocalist that's what I used to sing. So I used to do kirtan, but I used to learn raag music, and as I say, so raag sangeet is basically just Indian classical music.
Yes. And is kirtan then seen as a part of wider Indian classical music?
No. So kirtan is spiritual music.
Okay.
So there's, if you have like different genres of music, you have classical music, which is secular, which is just about the music itself, the sa re ga ma pa dha ni, all the intricacies of raag and how raag and tal works. And
for those listening who may not know, raag is what would you say, like the melody?
Yeah, so raag is basically, you can say the melody, but raag is what you call, is the melodic structure.
Fine.
Sorry, I can't be more it's very difficult to define raag, but it is kind of more the melody.
Okay.
I'd say the melody.
And
whereas
tal
is the rhythm.
The rhythm. Yeah.
So
and tal is traditionally tabla, isn't it?
Yeah. In North Indian classical music, yes. Tal is generally the tabla, or bakawaj or mridangam.
And then a quick question, right? How does vajra fit into all of that, considering it's like it's a
Western instrument.
Yeah, that's been adopted in.
Yeah, so 19th century, it was easier for, it was just a very, very convenient instrument to play. And these are your kind of non-classically trained people wanting to kind of engage in music. Yeah,
and so
it's really
the vajra
good.
started off as an instrument that almost allowed people who weren't trained to almost get access.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like for example in kirtan, it meant that a lot more people are engaged in Kirtan because they could, I say, got the tune out of a of a harmonium of a vajra. So the convenience that allowed for meant that there was a wider approach for music across the kind of, which is a great thing. You know, but then again, it doesn't offer the same amount of the real essence of Indian classical music is the meaned, which is the sliding and gliding of the strings and the way that you sing. You can't do that on a harmonium, if that makes sense. So ways you can do on like an estrade or dilruba or sitar. So it takes a lot. It takes a lot more training to be able to play them instruments.
Fine. I can well imagine. I can well imagine. So sorry, how did you then transfer to sitar?
Sitar,
what were you like? You know what? I'm bored with these. I'm gonna go play. I'm gonna play this now.
Well, no. So I started off as a vocalist, and I was training. I was learning from visiting ustads from India that used to come over. And I was learning just pure Indian classical music. I wasn't learning. I was learning Kirtan on the side as well. But that's very different to learning Indian classical music. Okay. They're two different.
And when you say Kirtan, you're referring to non-rag Kirtan?
A mixture. Like, so when I was learning Kirtan, I was learning Rag Kirtan.
Okay, because to me, and again, this is just more so my own confusion. To me, Rag Kirtan and Indian classical music are technically the same.
No, they're different.
And is that just because of one is secular and one is viewed as religious?
Yeah. So whereas Bani is the key of what Kirtan is.
Oh, I see. It's not actually the music that's the key to Kirtan. It's actually the
Bani.
Gurbani.
The Gurbani is the most important factor.
I see. Whereas
in Indian classical music, it's just about the music. Obviously, there are lyrics and things that are, but the way is all about the expansion.
That's a really clever
way.
I like the way that's okay. Fine.
So that's why if I'm singing and playing Kirtan, it's a very, very different mindset to singing and playing Indian classical music. Because Bani holds precedence all the time. Yeah, and it should.
Of course. So when you learn Indian classical music, or you're learning Rag Kirtan, would you be learning the same things then? Yeah.
So you learn the same basic kind of scales, rags. You learn all them, and of course it's a bit of a. I'm not saying that. Rag Kirtan is one thing and Indian classical music is a separate thing, and they don't cross over.
Of course
they do. You know, you have some Kirtan is only sung in rags. If you look at them like Namtari Kirtan, they're so highly trained in Indian classical music. But even still, then if you got a Namtari musician to just do a standard Indian classical concert, it'll be very different to Rag Kirtan that they do. And that's a good thing. That should be because it just shows the intention of Kirtan is very different to the intention of Indian classical music. So it's good just to define what they are.
No, I like that. I like this very interesting. It's a very clever way of looking at it and actually being able to acknowledge that there are similarities. Like there's obviously structure and music and all the rest of it that overlaps, but actually their intention and objective is completely different.
Yeah, but then also you can't. You shouldn't also say like within Indian classical music there's so much spirituality within that anyway. Do you know what I mean? If you still have to sing it with the intention of it being bigger than you, whereas Kirtan is what Kirtan is for.
Well, I guess with Kirtan you're also the musician to some degree is also surrendering to the Kirtan in a sense, right? As in you're just the
conduit.
The vehicle to express that.
Yeah. But also, like, Indian classical music is also for that as well. But some people also take it differently. Because it's not...
I've had some really interesting conversations about this. I've had some musicians being like, Kirtan is not music. And then I've had debates with them being like, well, if there is a beat, if there's anything that creates a sound, then it's surely...
Who was saying that Kirtan isn't music?
You'll have to go back and find the episode, innit? I don't necessarily want to name him. But I can understand the theological point of view, but it doesn't really make sense to me.
The power of music has the power of changing mindsets, of attuning people into a certain way of thinking, a certain wavelength. So the power of music can't be diminished. You know what I mean? So attaching that with Barney only enhances the power of that. That's how I see it anyway. So music is a very, very powerful tool and powerful thing. For sure.
So we keep going off on a tangent. But how did you end up then wanting to be like, you know what, I'm going to be a sitar player?
Yeah. So
because you've obviously stuck with it as well.
Yeah. So I started sitar really late, to be honest. So even though I was singing and doing kirtan and singing Indian classical music, I had the option of doing 2 studies when I was at this thing called Yorkshire Young Musicians, which was a talent development scheme that was happening at Leeds College of Music. And as part of that, it's a Sunday school basically. I'd go every Sunday for 6 hours. I could do a second study. So at that time I did piano as my second study. And then I didn't like it as much. And then my ustad, that had been uncle, he said to me, why don't you do sitar instead?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, let me try it. So I picked it up and tried it. And then just never looked back. I had a really good ustad that had been Uncle G to kind of guide me through there. And then slowly it just kind of took over my vocals. Because I remember when earlier on, I used to be a better singer than I was a sitar player.
Yeah.
And then slowly that kind of... So I used to get really frustrated with playing sitar because I could sing, but I couldn't execute it.
Okay,
So that really spurred me on. And I was just at it. And then slowly that took over. And then I think one day I was just like, okay, I'm gonna take sitar.
I'm done. I'm with this now.
Take sitar forward.
Yeah.
Also, maybe because I wasn't that good a vocalist either.
You're like, you know what, I've got this. It'll save me.
Yeah.
I think whenever I've seen sitar players play, and I'm gonna reference Rupa Panissa here because I just think I've invited her before onto the podcast, and unfortunately for me, she wasn't free. I would love to talk to her because I've watched her on YouTube. I haven't had the pleasure yet to see her perform live, and I'm just sat there amazed.
Yeah,
like,
she's wicked.
How is that? How are you able to move your hands so quickly over those strings and make the noises that it's making? And it is just insane. It's just beautiful. However, my question is, doesn't that hurt your fingers? Because that looks really painful.
You get calluses. Look, if you look at my fingers, you can see them.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so you get them. So your skin hardens up.
I get that from the gym, man.
Yeah. You do get that from lifting weights over here. Not that I do many, but
no, but that's mad. And so you just deal with it, basically.
Yeah. It's just part and parcel of you just kind of get on with it.
So no pain, no gain, innit?
Yeah, no pain, no gain. But they harden over, so it's not as painful.
I love how you're just like, it happens. It's cool. we just carry on.
Yeah, you get these on this side as well, which are called snake eyes. So this is for the plectrum. So when you put a wire plectrum on here, and it's quite tight. So yeah.
Bloody hell, fair enough. And then so with sitar, you obviously started learning, and like, what has your journey been from the point you started till now? Like, where has it ended up taking you? Have you met some interesting characters? Has it, I don't know, put you in a room with someone where you're like, I didn't realize my sitar would bring me to this point?
Yeah, definitely. I think music has been a defining factor of my life. I mean, it has defined what my life is. Because I could have been, I was good at school. I was in kind of top sets for pretty much all my subjects, and so I could have gone in any direction. My older brother's a lawyer. His wife is a lawyer.
Wow. So your parents were like lawyer, medicine, engineer.
Well, I think. I mean, that was obviously the kind of underlying kind of expectation. But my parents are quite liberal in that sense. So so with music, they never said yes, but they never said no.
Okay.
And if they never said no, that meant that like
you still had the option.
Of doing that. So
you went to university and did.
I did ethnomusicology. Ethnomusicology, yeah.
Okay, so what did your degree contain?
So musicology is basically music of different cultures. So I specialised in South Asia. So I specialised in Indian classical music.
Oh, wow.
I studied at SOAS.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So
I applied to SOAS.
Did you?
Yeah. I wanted to go to SOAS. I didn't go in the end, obviously. But obviously, as you can imagine, for South Asian studies and history.
Yeah. So it was.
To be fair, I did use SOAS for my dissertation. They have a really good library. But
So I wanted to study it academically as well. You see, so it's just musicology, but specialising in South Asia.
So just run me through your degree quickly. Like, as in, were you learning instruments alongside studying these?
Yeah. So there's two. If you want to study at university, there's two ways of going. Either you go to a conservatoire, which is where you just do music like practical. You just play it. You don't do any academic stuff. It's just you just get the best that you can at your
As
instrument.
much practice as possible.
Yeah. And that's your whole degree is all about performance or composition. And obviously in this country, there's no conservatoire that would allow for a sitar player to really gain from that. I could still do that outside of university.
What instruments would they?
I could still probably do sitar, but the expertise of training.
Just wouldn't be
to
scratch.
Or the people to judge you or to kind of really push you forward, master classes and stuff. You wouldn't get the proper experience if you were, like, say, a Western classical musician coming to a conservatoire here. So the other option was then to study academically as well. So that meant just studying musicology, but just based on like the whole of South Asia. So that's what my degree kind of consisted of.
Oh wow!
Yeah, which is a long time ago. I did do a bit of performance. There's a performance module in it. There's a composition module, and then you kind of specialize in like I did Indian classical music as a module. I did I can't remember now, to be honest. I did the philosophy of music and at King's, one module at King's, and then so there was lots of different kind of modules that you could.
The philosophy of music sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
This is just more a question because I feel like a lot of people will probably be wondering this, which is we've obviously been talking about Indian classical music, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but what are some of the key differences between Indian classical music and Western classical music?
Western classical, yeah. So, I mean, it'd probably be better just to tell you like what like the overview of like Indian music in general, because people have different perceptions of what Indian music is. People think Indian music is just all like tabla and dol, so they're very, very different things. So in India you have two types of classical music. So classical music is like art music, would you say? So Western classical music here is like violins, orchestras, and opera. That's classical music.
Stringed instruments, pianos, harps.
So that's classical music. So that's what Indian classical music sits in India. So that's what we define as Indian classical. And there's two forms of that: South Indian classical music, which is called Carnatic music, and then North Indian classical music, which the genre term is Hindustani classical music. That's the term, but we say umbrella term is Indian classical music. Then you have so here you'd have pop music like Ed Sheeran and Adele. In India you don't have pop music. You have Bollywood. You have film music. Film music is your pop music there, basically. So like Shreya Ghoshal and Arijit Singh and Sonu Nigam, they're like Ed Sheeran and Adele in the West. Can you see that parallel? So that's a different. So film music is different. Then you have religious music, which is your bhajans, qawwali, kirtan. So this is spiritual music for God. So you have the same here. So if you go to church, and you go and you listen to the music, you'll see like a choir singing. You've seen like Westminster Abbey when the coronation, they have them singers.
I went to a Church of England school, man. We saw it like every other month.
So that kind of thing. So that's secular. So that's different to classical music, different to pop music. Does that make sense? Yeah. Then you have in India, you also have a form of called semi-classical music, which is ghazal, tumri, dadra. They're still kind of classical, but they're still a bit semi-classical. So ghazal falls under that. So ghazal isn't Indian classical music, so they're very different. So that's the difference. So and then of course you also get pop music, and then you have independent music as well in India, where people are playing guitars and doing their own music, which you have here as well. So that's the kind of makeup. So when you say Indian music, you can define it a bit further, and then obviously I forgot about folk music. So Bhangra fits under folk music. So Bhangra is the folk music of Punjab. You have Garba, which is the folk music of Gujarat. You have Lavani, which is the folk music of Maharashtra. You have So these are all different types of folk music from the different regions.
And it kind of comes from the ground up.
And then here you have like Morris dancing.
Which
is like, goodness gracious me, the Bhangra man equivalent, isn't
or
it?
it's like,
Morris dancing.
what is it? Is it the Irish tandantler when they do that thing with their legs?
So that's folk music. So it's very different to classical, very different to pop music. So indie music is also exactly the same like that.
Fine.
Does that make sense?
And so if you were, I know this isn't necessarily going to be like a direct one-to-one in terms of the instruments don't match, but like if you learned a Western classical stringed instrument, would you have a slight advantage over someone who hadn't and then went and learned an Indian stringed instrument?
Probably. So because art music is, it's like academia. Like someone, so it's like academia. So if you've got someone who's a PhD, who writes books, does proper research into it, and then you've got your lay novels of people who just like Harry Potter. There's a difference between technique and training that you have to do to be able to engage on that particular subject in that manner. Classical music is the same.
Fine.
So like I can still enjoy Bhangra music. I can still enjoy pop music and Bollywood music and all of that. But then when I'm doing like classical music, there's a certain level of training and
technique
that you have to train to be able to execute and
you
play
can't
that
just
music.
do it off the cuff kind of.
I mean, some people can, some like
naturally blessed
people can, but generally it takes years and years of training because it's all about the technique of how a rag is explored and kind of presented to an audience. That's where the beauty of the music lies.
And would you say, this is just more philosophizing about rag in itself, but would you argue that rag is an emotion that is almost outside of being edited? It's almost like you can't quite, because this is also probably my ignorance coming through, but as in, and my understanding of it would be a rag is like a particular melody or structure or whatever, and as soon as you change a part of that the whole mood or the whole rag would change.
So in I don't know how, I'm not a good singer, as you say, but it's probably best just to show you.
Sure.
In music, you have 12 notes from octave to octave. So or you have 7, and then you have, so on a piano you can see all the white notes.
Yes.
You have C D E F G A B C.
Yes.
So sa re ga ma pa da ni sa.
Yes.
This is all the white notes, and then you have the black notes, which are the accidentals or the sharps and flats.
Okay.
So we have them as well, which are called komal and tivar. So we have sa re, which is the white note, sa re, which is the flat.
Okay.
So all the notes all together, sa re re ga ga ma ma pa da da ni ni sa. They're the 12 notes that we have. And in our music, different combinations of these 12 notes make up different rags. Okay. So one rag might have 5 notes. Sa re ga pa da sa da pa ga re sa. This is rag Bhupali. You could have a rag that has all 7 notes. Or you can, the different combinations of different, of all these 12 make up different rags. Okay. So, and in our music, once you pick a rag, like I'm going to sing Bhupali, you can't sing any note outside of them 5.
Yes. So
if you do, then that's wrong.
Yeah, that's not that rag then, is it?
No, that then your whole concert is redundant. If I played another note that's not inside the rag, I'd get told off.
Okay.
My teacher would say that's not
and
the
that's
rag.
And I guess I'm just trying to argue that that's the biggest difference between Western and Eastern classical music.
No, it's just every classical music has its own set of rules and boundaries.
Oh, fine.
So where we focus on melody and rhythm, and what we call harmony. So there's 3 pillars that make up music. So you got melody, rhythm, and harmony.
Yeah.
So melody is what you're singing on top. Or like whatever the melody is. Your rhythm is obviously like your drums or your things. And then your harmony, so in Western music it would be your chords. So like on the guitar you change chords.
Dun, 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 dun.
You go to different different things. So that's what happens in Western music. You change chords. Whereas in Indian classical music, we don't have chords. We just have a tampura, which plays the same note all the way through all the time.
And that's sometimes that little electronic box.
Electronic box, but the sa or the first note is just constantly played.
And why is that?
Because that's what the nature of our music is, all based on that one note.
Oh, fine.
Yeah, so that's it's quite philosophical.
And that's almost
the
chord replacement then.
Sorry,
that's the replacement for the chords.
So our sense of harmony is a static drone, as we say, which is one note that's played constantly for the whole hour.
And I like the point about it being philosophical, because that is philosophical.
Because so all the notes come out of one note. And they're all in relation to the one note, which is basically
the same thing.
Of
and what is
higher being,
and what is like manifesting all of this, right? It's that beat that began in it.
It's that one source.
So would you say Indian classical music is deeply, not necessarily entrenched, but it's obviously evolved out of Indic philosophy?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. It started off as my teacher will be able to explain this a lot better than I can. I'm not an expert in this at all. I can tell you about Indian classical music, but not the kind of entire history. But it's definitely, as with any musical form, it's so entrenched to the lives of the musicians or the people around it. It's always a kind of thing. So, and it's been, there's so much spiritual connotations to the music system that we do. And like, it goes back to what I was saying before about how the power of music has a power of bringing thought together. That's.
Well, I just think it's interesting if you look at like Guru Nanak Dev Ji and Bhai Mardana, and a lot of the stories that we grew up on and the Sakhiyan about Guru Sahib are like, they'll go and meet whoever it is, sadhus, whatever, this and that, and then he'll ask Bhai Mardana to play his Rabab, and then Maharaj would sing the Bani. And so it's been there from the start for our tradition, at least. Talking about your teacher, so how did your tutelage under Ustad Dharamveer Singh shape your approach to, I'm probably going to butcher this, the Gayaki Ang style?
Gayaki Ang, all right, okay. So, so,
and what were some of those pivotal lessons from his meditation?
So Gayaki Ang is our, so there's two main styles of, or three main styles of sitar playing at the moment.
When you say at the moment, does that imply that it can evolve?
Yeah, of course. Indian classical music is always in flux because it's one feature about our music is that it's all improvised. So an hour concert that I would play would be 90% improvised on the spot. So that's where the beauty
that fills me with so much dread, man.
No, it's fun. It's good. That's a mark of a good musician.
Is that you can just do it
straight away. So you have the so like let's talk in Kirtan terms.
Okay.
I mean, probably this is the wrong way of doing it, but imagine you have the chorus of the main line.
That gets repeated.
That gets repeated. So when you do Kirtan, obviously Bani is the most important thing. So you would go through, you do the Astai, which is the main line, then you go through the Antaras, and then you go back and then it finishes.
Yes.
That's that. And it's and it's a composition that you've learned and it's there. So in Indian classical music, we have that structure. We have Astai and Antara. But obviously, if I was just to perform it, it would be over in 5 minutes. But I've got a whole concert to do, which is an hour and a half. So we develop and expand on that, on the melodic movements of that, only using the notes of the rag, but doing tan, doing alap, which are improvisations on that.
So you take the notes that are already in that piece of music, and you basically remix them between the beginning and end to connect it and make that longer.
Kind of, but in essence, because that piece of music is set in one rag. I'm going to sing a composition in Rag Bhupali.
Yes.
So Rag Bhupali are these notes, and one composition comes from that. But basically I take that composition and I expand as much as I can on that. So our style of music is called khayal. Khayal means imagination. So that's where the beauty of the music lies. Is in the improvisation.
That makes me think if I was a musician, I'd just be shitting myself constantly. But then actually it goes to show the confidence and ability and the skill that you as a musician must have in order to then do that.
Yeah, so we have to be able to, because we learn from our ears as well.
Yeah.
So any little note or something, I can tell you the notation of any song that I hear. So because I'm trained that way.
I remember,
because I have to think like that.
I remember. So going this is just. I'm actually pissing myself remembering about how bad this was. But I went to, if anyone's from Coventry, you'll know the school, right? I went to a school called Blue Coat, right?
Yeah.
Church of England school. It was a music college. Okay, just bear that in mind. And I was a very academically successful child. Yeah, like we were so academically successful. I was doing my GCSE maths and history a year early, right?
Okay.
And we're in year 9 or year 10, and it's the first year that music is going to be tiered. Up until that point, it's just your form class, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, this test is going to be, like, as in, I'm confident as hell. I'm like, all right, piece of piss. Like, I'm going to be in the top set. Anyway, I'll do it. And the whole test is we're going to play these sounds. You have to pick the note. And it's just multiple choice.
Yeah.
I ended up in the bottom set, and I still remember the test because my podcast was really tight. I still remember the whole like experience, right? And it was the worst test I've ever done, and I've never been able to succeed since. And I swear I must be tone deaf to some degree, right? Like, as in, I love music. I absolutely adore music. We grew up on music, like, as in, I love it. But I genuinely, after that, I realized I was like, yeah, I don't think this is for me. So when you're like, you know what, I could hear anything and tell you exactly, that's a skill.
That is because it's the way we're trained. From that level upwards, you're just like, you're taught even more than like a Western classical musician, because they're taught to read on the page. They're taught to read that these dots are like this. We're taught very differently. We're taught to learn
the sound,
exactly what it is, and then if I say sing this, you play and sing straight away. Massive passages. That's how we're trained.
That's insane.
Because you need to have that level of sustain, and then from that, once that all kind of gets internalized, then you can do whatever you want. That's where the music, that's where the beauty lies. Like I said, was you need the technical mastery of your instrument or your vocals to be able to, whatever comes into your head, to execute straight away.
Not have to think and process how do I get what's in my brain onto the
and not only, because obviously you have to always think about what your the phrases are always in the rag, but then if your tal is also going as well, and say if a tal is, okay, let's make it easy, like it's an 8-beat tal, gerwa or something like that, and my composition starts on the 5th beat. So that could be going on, and I could be doing loads of improvisation, but I have to make sure that I come back to the 5th beat.
So that it connects back to the...
So it comes back into the thing. So that's what we kind of do in interplay. So it gets really a lot more complicated than that. But in essence, so you have to be thinking what I'm going to sing next and how I'm going to sing it and make sure that sounds good. But then on the other thing, your tal has to be...
In beat
constantly. So that you know exactly where you are in the cycle as well, and that's basically what the essence of our music is, and that's what all these musicians who I've named are really good at doing. Have reached such a good standard in this country as well. Well, considering we
were talking about before we were recording about your concert in Hastings, and I had the pleasure to. Oh, I hope this hasn't died.
Oh, I think it has. Oh yeah.
Oh, we're back. Are we back? Hello. Oh.
No, yours has got.
Oh, are we back again? Are you one or am I one?
I think. Oh wait, yeah. You're one.
Okay. Oh, fine. Sorry, I thought you were two. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Going back to your Hastings concert, I remember. So I didn't see it was in Hastings. I just saw it come up on my Instagram, and then I saw you were doing it with Tony, and I was like, "Oh, this is." I know these people. I'll go. And I found it was in Hastings. I was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to the edge of the country." But then I ended up having a conversation with Tony on the phone like a day or two after this, and I was like, "Oh, so you're preparing for your concert?" He was like, "Nah, I'll just turn up and I'll play."
Yeah.
And I was like, "What?" I was like, "How? How is that even possible?" And he was explaining basically what you were saying, that you kind of just listen to it, figure out what's going on, and then jump in. And I'm just like, safe. The level of skill, as you're saying, must be at such a level in order to be able to play with such brilliance and confidence, just spur of the moment.
Yeah.
Mad. It's mad.
Yeah.
So your work seamlessly blends Indian classical music with contemporary genres. What inspired you to embark on this fusion journey? And I guess also, how do you balance? Because I think as we've been talking, I wouldn't say that they don't complement each other, but there are definitely differences between East and Western music.
Yeah.
Although you seem to be very knowledgeable about like those differences and also how they kind of overlap.
Yeah.
So what was the what was the idea behind kind of blending them together?
Yeah, so one thing, like, we never say fusion. Fusion is a toxic word in the Indian classical community, because fusion implies like kind of tacky coming together of which I've seen and heard a lot of in my life. You always hear like, oh, someone's done, mix some, Indian classical music with some beats, and it's but always, for me, it's always been very superficial. There's been really good ones, like, don't get me wrong, really kind of really good coming togethers of both styles, but because of the generation before us, or the generation even before that, you had very isolated musicians who come from very isolated musical families, and just their paradigm was quite isolated. So, like, say, Pandit Ravi Shankarji, one of the greatest sitar players the world has ever seen, but he grew up in India, and didn't have the same access as, say, like, I do on my foot. I'm not comparing myself to Ravi.
I know what you mean, though, by analogy.
Or maybe, we could say, like, his daughter, for example, Anushka. Raviji probably grew up a lot more musically isolated than Anushka did, just because of
access to stuff.
We've got iPhones that have
internet on off, little computers.
You can go to any musical form and study it, and go and chat GPT and
or anything, YouTube or something these days.
There's so much more resource than there is. So that's one reason why I think the blending of these two kind of styles it's kind of, I feel like I'm a bit more kind of on it with that. Then also just growing up here as well. I didn't grow up in India with just Indian music to immerse me. It was I grew up in England, like watching Hollywood films with like lavish scores, like going to school, playing piano, being in the school choir, learning Western harmony in a way that, like, my counterparts in India haven't.
Just wouldn't,
still don't. I studied in Kolkata, Sangeet Research Academy, which is a very, very prestigious university or conservatoire to study Indian classical music, and all of the students were next level Indian classical music, so good. But then as soon as you put something slightly different of, like, Western harmony in, it just falls flat. They don't have any, obviously to some degree, but not in the same way that musicians from here do, just because they've been exposed to it much more. And even then, that's still not enough, in my opinion, to kind of bring the two styles together. I feel like I spent the time really studying the way that Western music works, to be able to find ways to bring this two together in a way that's quite meaningful, that isn't tokenistic, that isn't reductionist. So that's very important to me. So
why was I'm glad you said it was important, because that's my next question, which is why are those things important to you? Because I think it's really heartwarming to hear that is important to you. But at the same time, you would this is my assumption, but most musicians in this position would arguably not be so concerned, because basically the end goal is sell tickets, for argument's sake, right? So why is it that important to you, and why have you almost gone out of your way to ensure it's not reductionist and it's not tokenistic?
Sure, because I mean, it's because of the opportunities that were presented to musicians in England. For them to engage, to become musicians. So when I went to university, that was a real kind of like, okay, I'm going to try and make this as a career. And for me internally, I was like, my brother's a lawyer, my fiance is a barrister, that everyone's like, and all my cousins are doctors, engineers. And in Punjabi families, it's important that you are kind of financially stable,
have a good job,
and have a good job, because these are things that I look back and I think Indian parents were probably a bit too hard, but actually they're just setting them up to be good for their to have a
they've kind of
enjoyable life.
Seen what was hard for them, and then like, look, if you get these things and you sort it out, you'll have a slightly better life than we did.
But then for me, I was like, okay, I want to try become a musician, but I want to be as financially secure and stable as my friends are.
As my peers and stuff.
As my peers, that was quite important to me. And then I think that was a bit naive at that point, because coming out of university, I was like, how is this even going to
What do
work?
I do?
What do I do to be able to make this sustainable?
Where do you even start with something like that?
Exactly. So all right. So in England, we have there are lots of organisations like Darbar, like South Asian Arts UK, like Mill Art Fest. These are all South Asian arts organisations. So they would put on loads of concerts, X amount of concerts throughout the year. And obviously, I'm not gonna get called for every single concert that they do. I'm not gonna do 16 concerts for Darbar. It doesn't work like that, So I'd get paid for the one concert that I do, and maybe with the 9 other organisations, that's only 9 concerts in that year of doing straight Indian classical music. So I was like, how do I? And the other places that I was getting concerts at were Western organisations saying that we want to engage with Indian music.
Yeah.
So a lot of the musicians have to then do kind of more fusion stuff because of the opportunities for them to be paid to make a
you almost have
career.
to not be yourself to then gain
Kind of. So I did all that when I was young, and then it came to a point where it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want it to be on my terms. I want my musicals, everything that I've learned, I want that to be at the forefront. Not anyone else's other music and
or their perceptions or assumptions or whatever.
I get put. I got asked to do something with like a tap dancer. Like what? That's not something that I thought of. I got asked to do something with with jazz musicians, with folk musicians, with classical musicians. Because of the opportunities, and they're good because they're definitely made me a better musician than I was. So I'm not knocking it.
But it's not really something that you want to be doing, though.
But in any other genre, if I was a cellist, playing cello in this country, I could just be a cellist and not do any other thing and still have a sustainable career.
Oh God,
If I was a jazz musician, I could still do loads of jazz concerts because the infrastructure is there. But for me, I was like, there is no infrastructure for someone like me coming through to actually make a sustainable career.
Why do you think there isn't that infrastructure?
Just because there hasn't been enough time, and there's only been the first generation, which was my Ustad's generation, who were doing, they did a lot of teaching in schools, and they set up a lot of the kind of infrastructure for us to fly like we are now.
Just to learn.
And to get opportunities to perform. So all these organizations like Darbar came because of that generation. So they were definitely pushing. We wouldn't be here. We're standing on their shoulders. In that sense.
But the infrastructure to do the concerts and to support, make a living,
and to be on an international level.
Yes,
that's where I feel like where musicians like Rupar and Kirbal, Shahbaz Hussain, Sanju Sahai, for them to really thrive. This is my goal now, is to build an infrastructure in this country where Indian classical musicians can make a career for themselves without having to do all the other extra things as well. And I think it's possible, and that's why I've been so diligent with all these arts organisations now with these projects. I've been very, very vocal to say I'm not doing it unless we do it the way that I think it should be done. And that's caused a lot of problems.
I was going to say,
do
people turn around and like, well, all right, we'll just go find someone else, or are they receptive to what you're saying?
Well, if you, for example, let's take a Opera North, which I was artist in residence at Opera North. So Opera North is a very, very Western classical organisation, one of the biggest in the north, with a lot of funding and a lot of infrastructure and money. So there was a project called Orpheus, which was this opera that was that I kind of was involved with. So I was so they'd asked, they said, okay, we want to get all these musicians together and do this opera. And I knew it was going to be one of them projects where it was like, we just have to get into the room, do it and get paid and then go home, and nobody wants to really engage in it.
I see.
To a certain extent, of course, the intention behind all the organisations are really valid, and their hearts are in the right place, but they don't necessarily have the expertise to be able to execute something that should be done on an artistic level. So for me, I was like, okay, the way that we should do this should be like this rather than this, and if it takes 10 times more work and effort to do it, this is still worth doing more than doing the other,
because the final product will be so much better as well.
Which was testament. It won, I won like 7 awards, I think, from it afterwards. And that's not just, I don't see it as like it was really difficult. I still find it one of the most traumatic periods of my life, you know,
bless.
but that's how passionate I was
Yeah.
making sure that we were represented in a way that was respectful and not tokenistic within a company that's not set up to be able to deliver that on
How
a
would they
basis.
even know better, would
Exactly,
they?
you know, so slowly these things are changing, and I'm thankfully I'm in a place now where I can say I can kind of dictate what I want to happen in certain scenarios to be able to get the best for my musicians. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at longevity within the
Your
industry.
community,
For
everybody.
For everyone, yeah. If we don't help ourselves, who else is gonna
helping
help
us? Yeah.
You know.
It's amazing to hear this, because I think, and this is also why I enjoy doing what I do, because I get to talk to people like yourself, and I get to find out what you guys are doing, and I get to find out your passions, and how actually there's loads of us building communities all over the country, and it's like, it's in safe hands. I genuinely think that you've, like, as in, this is the first time we've met and spoken, and the impression I get is you've got your head screwed on very well, and I definitely feel you're on to a winner. So just please keep going, because I would love to see where you get. I'd like to have a conversation with you in a few years and be like, all right, so what have you achieved? And then you can be like, look, here's this list of that we've done.
Well, you know, it's not just me though.
But the thing is you're doing it.
Yeah.
You've almost taken that flag, or you've taken that weight on your shoulder, and you're like, you know what? It's not just for me. I'm doing it for all the musicians. I'm doing it for everyone who I look up to, but also who may be coming behind me. And I think that is rare to find, because a lot of the time people are happy to put their own name out there, or their own kind of select few friends out there. Whereas actually you're just like, you know what? I see these issues. These issues don't just affect me. They affect all of my peers, and they're going to affect the next generation anyway. So why can't I, or actually not even why, how can I try and do something? And I think that is just
but there are I should also say, there are other people like me who are also killing it. Not that I'm killing it, but like there's the Orchestral Quality Project, who are doing, Abby Sampa and Rochelle are doing such good work on that front. Obviously Rupa is there, she's just the superstar.
It's incredible.
Anushka Shankar is doing so much for, she's curating festivals, bringing other musicians in. The Zero Classical are doing really good work. I can name so many. It takes, and I think it takes a whole load of us to be doing that.
It takes a whole village, innit?
To be doing that with the same mindset. I really feel this with especially the British-born musicians. I feel like we've all, I see them all as my friends, and I see them all as like on a level with, there's no animosity. It's not in India. It's a very different. It's people will tug you down the ladder if they see you doing well.
You can't get better than me type of attitude.
Whereas here, I think definitely we're all supporting each other. I definitely see myself as part of that community, and it's almost like, I don't want to say my seva to the community. It's more like it's my duty to do the has that gone off?
Yeah, don't worry, I'll turn it on in a minute.
I see it's my duty to help, to forge paths for each of them. And I run this WhatsApp group with a load of musicians in, and I constantly always put in, apply for this, do this to your websites and get this on the thing, just.
And this is why I think it's in really safe hands. And I'm not saying it's just you. And I think, like, I understand completely. There are loads of other musicians, loads of other people doing really good work. But the difference is, you're the only one in the room with me, innit? So I can't chat about them, right?
You should get them on.
I will.
You should get them on.
I definitely will. So we've got about half an hour left, and we don't have too many questions. But just to come back, so we were talking about how you're going to be blending Eastern and Western styles, and I have to be mindful not to use the word fusion. Now that you've explained, but going back to 2020, you did aria, a concerto for sitar and orchestra, right? So again, I think just to evidence that you've been working in this domain for quite a while. The piece is titled Aria, plays on both the Italian aria, which means a solo vocal melody, and the Sanskrit word meaning noble or precious, symbolizing the sitar's journey through 3 movements. In the tradition of romantic concertos, aria stages an evolving dialogue between the sitar and the orchestra, which just sounds amazing. Like when I was reading about this, I was like, yo, I wish I was aware at the time to come and see it. Anyway, moving from initial confrontation to harmony, showcasing the shared expressive depth of both traditions. I was going to ask you initially, what was it that sparked this? But I think we can kind of figure that out from everything we've been talking about. What I want to then ask you is, what challenges did you encounter trying to
bring them together,
do that? And then also, what was the reward and the satisfaction like on the other side?
Yeah, so aria is a concerto is basically a Western classical form. It's for showcasing an instrument. So usually it'd be a violin concerto or a piano concerto, and basically that's like the piano is a soloist, and then they play with orchestra. So orchestra is like this, 80-piece strings and all of that. So so there have been sitar concertos in the past. Ravi Shankar was the first one to get his commission in 1970, I think. And then there's been loads of Indian classical concertos since then as well. I think, so I had the opportunity to have that. So it started off as a string quintet, which was just for sitar and 4 string players. But then I expanded that to orchestra. And that was just, again, it's all about having, so what I do is that I take raag, which is that gives it as a structure to work on, the melodic side. But in Western classical music, how I was talking that we focus on raag and tal, which is the melody and the rhythm, but our harmony is static. It's only one sa. So with Western classical music, we look towards like really good melody and really good rhythm and the sophistication that comes from that. So in Western classical music, they don't really look at rhythm that much, not in the same way that we do. They do look at melody a lot, but all of their like sophistication comes in the harmony, which is the chords, which is moving that sa to different, moving the drone to different notes. So that's where Western classical music gets all of its classical rigor from. That's what people look for, is harmony. So that's why a Western classical musician coming to an Indian classical concert, they may not understand that you have to focus on the rhythm and the melody. So they may just focus on that one drone and be like, it's not doing anything.
Moving.
It's not doing anything. And similarly with a Western musician, they go there, it's like, where's the beat? Where's the dal? Where's the... It's just all kind of moving, but we can't even latch onto a scale because it's starting to go into different scales. And, so you have these kind of perceptions. So I've found that whenever people have tried to put them together, if you're doing it to an audience, like the Western guys hate it because there's no harmony, and the Indian guys hate it because there's no melody or rhythm to latch onto. So what I try to do in my music is that because I studied not in the same way that I studied Indian classical music, but I studied Western classical, and I'm still studying. I'm still trying to learn. But within harmony, there's something called counterpoint, which is where you have 2 lines, two melodic lines playing together.
Okay.
So we have the one line playing together, whereas you have loads of different lines playing together that interlock like a cog.
Yeah.
So you have like 4 or 5 of them.
Okay.
So and there's different rules and regulations that you can do depending on what note you go, and that's what counterpoint is called. So there's like a system. So what I do is that I get the raag rules, because we have different rules and put that on top.
Okay.
So what I do, all my music has the Indian classical rhythm, melody and rhythm, because that's what inherently I bring forward from the raag.
Yeah.
But then I can blow up the harmony because the harmonic language that I'm building from this side. So when someone hears it, so an audience comes in, there's enough harmonic language there for them to feel like there's something in it.
Oh, wow.
And then, but it's so rooted in Indian classical music that any Indian classical musician would be able to hear and think, okay, that is raag Gujari Thodi, that is raag.
That's mad.
Charukeshi, that's that. So that's what I do.
Is this online?
Aria isn't, but some of my other music and stuff is for sure. Yeah,
because that sounds really. I'm almost like.
Yeah. There's one piece called Lament that I've done,
which is a similar concept.
Yeah. So that's all in Bhairavi, raag Bhairavi, and that's based on the melody line is that, but the harmony is all based on that. So I'll show you it later. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, do you have a particular raag that is your favorite? And if so, why?
Well, I think the diplomatic answer would be that
I love them all.
Generally, like, I mean, you can say that you do love them all because it's not so much about the rag itself; it's like what you do in the rag.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
So like because
you have those, like, you have the rules, but you can play with those rules.
Because you play with them, and the interesting thing with the rag is that, like, because every rag has its own pathway, what we call jalan, is the way that we can move in the rag.
Yeah.
So we can only go from one note to note in a very specific way. So actually, that's why people say that rags are like people. Like, you can only, you know that story about the elephant? One blind guy's feeling the trunk.
Whole trunk, the
One
leg.
is feeling
The
a
tail.
rag is kind of like that. When I perform one rag, I might be just focusing on the trunk because that's what I'm particularly focusing on that particular moment. But every rag, it has its own personality, and it's up to me to try and find that out. I know this sounds proper like wishy-washy, but
it sounds philosophical though, because actually what you're saying is you as the person have to almost not resonate, but almost feel the rag, and then like find your
pathway,
bit that you fit in,
and find the pathway that you can be able to do justice to the rag to get the essence out. So my teacher is obviously so much better at knowing that particular rag, because the more you grow, the more practice, the more knowledgeable you are of different rags. So yeah, there's certain rags that I do like, but I like learning other rags as well, because it's like it's like having a new piece of chocolate that you've never tasted before, or
that
like
taste, isn't it?
So, and then the more you know it, the more you can become friends with it, as I say. The more that you can things. And sometimes it doesn't work out, and sometimes it does. So that's.
Can you create your own rag?
You can, yeah. You can create your own rags, but rags only kind of become rags when other people play it.
Okay.
Yeah, so when it becomes part of the psyche of the community, the Indian classical community. So there's loads of rags that have, like, for example, Jogons is like relatively recent, because it's coming together of two different rags. Ravi Shankar ji made loads of different rags. Not all of them took on, but some did. So there's and rags are always in flux. Like Rag Bhairavi 100 years ago isn't like Rag Bhairavi now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because they like Rag Bihag. Again, you can hear recordings 50 years ago that don't sound like Rag Bihag now.
And what, like, as a musician, when you listen to something that's like 50 or however many years old, what is the difference that you're picking up?
Oh, you just see that, like, because Indian classical music it's in flux. It's only valid. Every performance is valid. So basically, like, if Kaushiki Chakrabarti, she's a really famous Indian classical vocalist. So she'll sing. She's singing Rag Bhairavi today. It'll be very different to what she's sung before, and that then and it just slowly changes. It slowly morphs when different musicians hear. And like, she may sing one phrase that's slightly out but sounds good, and then someone else picks that up, and then it kind of gets defined. It's almost like moves a little bit. It's only really subtle.
It's not quite human error, but it's almost like the human element of it can help slowly, not evolve it, but as in, like, as you're saying, like, if she's slightly higher or slightly lower at one point, someone may be like, oh, that's amazing, and then take that same idea and continue.
Okay. So it kind of it's like a dish, like what dal roti, or like dal used to be back in the day, to how it is now. People put their own masala
and people's tastes kind of change
change and stuff, and like that then becomes, if you're gonna make tadka dal, that's how you're gonna make tadka dal. But it might be different to it. I mean, that's probably a bad analogy, but you can see what you mean though. And then that becomes the precedence of what it is. So rags have changed. So even this, the idea of rag being a static thing, that what rag would have sounded 500 years ago, no one knows. Even it may have the same name, it may not have sounded the same. But the idea is what the essence of the rag is.
Or the feeling.
What is the feeling that you want to evoke? What does that? That's much more important. And whether you can connect with that and push that out. That's insane. That's where the beauty lies.
This is why I love this, because I get to learn so much as we're going through these conversations. Just moving forward to then 2022, two things happened in that year. You have your debut album even, Anomaly, released in 2022. It features a rich tapestry of sounds and collaborations. And then also in that same year, your involvement in Opera North Orpheus, which is what you've been talking about, showcased a unique blend of Monteverdi's compositions with Indian classical music. Just going back to your album, what was the whole creative process like? Why did you want to do an album? Like, what was the whole like from A to Z?
Yeah, so I actually got a scholarship from Sky Arts. So I got a Sky Arts scholarship.
That's sick.
Back in 2027.
And what did you have to do to get that?
2017, sorry.
What did you have to do to get that? Just
I had to apply. So there's like, I think 1,500 applicants or something ridiculous like that. So I had to go for some things. So that was to do a contemporary album.
Yeah.
And the reason I wanted to do that was, so I'd just come out of university. I went to India for a year to study there, came back. And it was that thing of like, what opportunities are there out for me to do stuff? And then I was like, how do I make a career as a successful musician? And then the thing was recorded music is very important because you can use that as a tangible thing to kind of present, to kind of to move forward. So I was like, I want to do an album. Then I was like, I've been given this opportunity by Sky Arts. Let me try to get as many people on it as I can because I've been given the opportunity. So they gave me £30,000 to do this. Then I got everyone. I got Rupa, I got Kirpal, I got Kaviraj, I got Opni, Gurtin, and as many British Asian musicians of my generation, other than my friends, and then I asked them, I was like, do you want to kind of be involved in it? And it was contemporary, so it was like strings as well, and piano, guitar, and things. So it was a contemporary album. But the idea was that I would do something that I felt like was meaningful to me, which brought all this, the Western stuff in it that wasn't cheesy, that my parents and my brothers could listen to, even though because they don't like Indian classical music in the same way, they don't really connect with it. So I wanted to make an album that anyone could listen to, but almost trick them into listening to Indian classical music.
Make it a blend almost so perfectly.
So I wanted something that my teacher would be like, that I can be proud, not proud, but like he would be like, well done. But also like my brother would be able to say, you know what, that sounds
I've actually
listened
good. To it.
Which happened. So but the issue with that was then I wanted it to be on a label. Because I was like, if I wanted to make it into this, I'd be given that opportunity from Sky. It's opened a load of doors, but I wanted to release it on a record label that was established, because I feel that was going to be the best place for it to have the longevity, and I didn't want to self-release it because I've seen my friends do it and they only got to a certain amount, and I really wanted to use the opportunity to try break through as much as I could. And then it took ages. So it took me about 5 years to make the album itself. And then, so that process was really labor intensive, really, really difficult.
And £30,000 for 5 years isn't a lot. Like, if you talk about your time.
It all went on the album. It all went on just booking musicians, booking the studios, booking the things. And I didn't get anything from
but
that.
even the money just to cover that, like the time and the cost.
Well, it actually wasn't enough, to be honest.
Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't sound like a lot.
Putting in a lot more. But with that, so then we started pitching to labels. So at that point, I'd already, I was already, did a sitar concerto with Aria. I was already performing all over. I was already had a really good concert schedule, and I studied and everything. And we went to loads of labels, and they all said no. They all said, your music is good, but you don't fit our roster.
Yeah.
You don't fit the kind of music.
You don't look like the person we want type of shit.
Yeah. But then also like, there's like, why don't you try find people that are similar to you and see what they've done and see which record labels they've gone to. I was like, there's no one. There's no one. The only people that was Nitin Sawhney and Talvin Singh, who were famous in the 20 years ago. So they're like grandfathers.
As in Talvin Singh, who won the Mercury Prize.
In 1999. Yeah.
I remember being 8 and being like, Brown Man's won it.
Exactly. So they're the ones who are signed to labels. Anushka Shankar, because she's Anushka Shankar,
Well, her second name just is going to carry her through, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, she's a really fun musician and a really, really nice person. But, there's a difference between Anushka.
You still can't get away from the name, though, innit?
Yeah. Which is thing. So Talvin Singh, Anushka Shankar, and then maybe Sarathi Korwar as well. He was a guy that he's a jazz musician, kind of learned a bit tabla, and so he was also. So there, but the handful of people, no Sardars, no Indian classical musicians that weren't already kind of things. So I was just like, what do you do? Where do you go? And then pandemic hit, and then suddenly I got signed to Real World Records, which is there's a guy called Peter Gabriel. He's quite a famous musician back in the day. So he set up his record label. So Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan was his record label. So I, for some reason,
that's fucking bad boy.
Yeah, they picked me up, and then from there I was just like, damn, I don't know how that happened, but just took that on. They released it, and then I was like, okay, you know what? I think I've done well. And then I got, my fiance was managing me at the time, so she's the one who kind of secured that deal, and then I got a booking agent after that.
And that's why you're marrying her. I'm kidding.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. She's not my manager anymore now. Yeah,
she's my wife.
Yeah. Then a booking agent got involved, and then so that again, you have to, if you look at the kind of Western model, you have they have a manager, you have a booking agent, you have a publisher, and you have a record label. They're the four things that make up a successful musician in the West. And obviously in India it doesn't work like that for Indian classical musicians. But if we wanted to really that was my way of getting into the industry, was kind of taking that model and just superimposing it onto
what you're doing,
onto what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not the best way. Like, I know some musicians might not want to do that,
but it's worked.
I'm not sure. I don't know. It is hard. Like, but it definitely got me further in my career than I would have done if I was just acting by myself.
Yes.
And record labels take you more seriously if you did have a manager. And that's the thing in our industry. We don't have managers, we don't have booking agents, we don't have publishers, and we don't have record labels that invest in us. So me getting on for Real World was like such a big thing. Then to get a manager, then to get a booking agent. And even then, it was all still like I was still doing so much behind
the
it
legwork,
to make it work and to make it like that. And then Orpheus happened that same year, and Orpheus was like such unprecedented. I told you like some of the story of how that kind of came about, but that really, I think, pivoted me into like really like spearheaded me into the psyche of the Western classical thing. So the awards that we won from that was we won the Asian Music Media Award, which was really good. I won the Asian Achievers Award just for me being a sitar player. But then the UK Theatre Award, which is
that's insane,
a Western award. That we got that for Orpheus. We got the Critics Circle Award. I was nominated for an Ivor Novello award for the composition of Orpheus, and then I was nominated for the Royal Philharmonic Society Award for composition for this. But then I also was nominated and won the Instrumentalist Award. I'm the first sitar player to win that, and that's a Western.
That is insane.
So the Royal Philharmonic Society were the people that commissioned Beethoven's symphony. So like we're talking proper.
We're going as high as we can go at this point
in Western classical. So I was the first, and obviously I'm nobody. Like I on a normal. I'm in a kachana banana.
Normally, just normal banda, man. I know what you mean.
So it's not, and the thing is, like, this has all come from just. Like it's really nice to have that cherry on the top. Do you know what I mean?
And that recognition of all your hard work and the effort and the time and the
work
money.
is bloody hard. And like even at the end of it, like then the years after, then I then had lots of concert tours from that. I then played Darbar as well. I headlined Darbar this Justice Festival gone in November, which has been my dream since I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like that was my pinnacle of success.
Was being there.
Was to play at the bar because I've been going as a punter since it started. So then but on the other side of it, like I'm always questioning whether I'm good enough. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm always questioning. Like I need to rehearse more. I need to do this more.
I definitely think that's
I'm definitely not the best sitar player in the country. I'm nowhere near. Like, there's.
But that is a sign of someone who's truly a master.
No.
Yeah.
But I'm talking really honestly.
No, I know.
But as in honestly, I wouldn't
anyone that
master.
I've ever met who I've ever thought is the pinnacle of something has never been. And I can't think of another phrase, but has never been cocksure, has never been like arrogant, has never been like, you know what, I am the best.
Sure.
Ever.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that you're being humble in order to like just for the cameras or whatever. But what I mean is that that's the sign of a true master, because a true master never acknowledges that they've completed it because you never have.
Yeah. I mean, even like that aside, the word master doesn't really equate in Indian classical music. You can't
be a master
you
of
can't
it.
be a
Though.
master
No,
of
of course
classical
not. But
music,
equally,
yeah.
I think the Indic philosophy is so deep that actually you'll never. First of all, you yourself are just an illusion. So let's just start with that.
That just makes this whole conversation redundant now, isn't it? What's the point of it? We're just an illusion.
But fundamentally, you're just I think it's also like where you were talking about music, which is actually you could listen to something 50 years ago and play the same thing now, and it would sound completely different.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, it's still the same thing to a degree.
Yeah.
And equally with mastering or learning something is you're just every time you sit down and you're playing something, it's going to be slightly different each time.
Mm-hmm.
And you will master obviously the techniques or whatever the words are. But it's like Bruce Lee. He became one of the best martial artists that the world's ever seen. And but he wasn't like, all right, I've done it now, I've completed it. I'm going to sit down and chill. And I think that is what. And I remember, unfortunately, he's passed away now. But there was a Singh called Gurmeet from Coventry, one of Nadar's very close students. I remember one time in our counterpart before he passed away, we met him, and I asked him this question. He's the one who kind of bollocked me into this philosophy, which was I was like, all right, so how long did it take you to master it? And he was like, you never mastered this.
You know, master.
And then he just pulled out some next moves, and I was like, safe. Just leave me alone, man. So that's my. I understand what you mean, though. As in, there are obviously loads of other musicians, and there's always someone bigger or better or whatever the words are.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, I think your mind frame and the way that you are taking this whole landscape on is really inspirational, and it's making me think of how I can learn from what you're doing and see, right, well, he's the X, Y, and Z to get there. How can I implement some of this and figure out how to move forward too? And I think the best thing is you're not actually just thinking about yourself. You're not like, you know what, I want to do this for me or for my peers. You're like, you know what, if I can set something up or an infrastructure up that brings everyone else, like the next generations, mate.
Yeah.
What a mark.
One of the definitely cut this.
Yeah.
But one of the most.
A few moments later.
There was a point I remember in my career where I was like, because it is hard. It's very, very difficult. And you're grafting every time.
Especially when you're on your own.
Yeah, but even when you have a team, it still needs to be led.
Yeah.
You still need to make the right decisions.
And there's no other blueprint. You're not following someone else's they've done it, I can follow what they've done.
Exactly, because there's no real precedent.
No.
So it does make things harder. And then even having a team brings a level of kind of responsibility. That kind of puts on because you need to make your overheads and
you got to cover their costs and pay them or whatever.
So there's a lot of things that you kind of have to consider. I can't remember my point now. What was I talking about?
I've completely forgotten it as well.
Anyway.
No worries. Yeah. All right, we've got about 5 minutes left. I've got a few questions. I'm probably just going to jump through a couple of them, and then I definitely think we'll need to do a part 2 because there's so much more that I would love to bug you about. So we've spoken about 2022 was a busy year. Obviously, you had Anomaly, you had Orpheus, which we've spoken about. 2024, this is what you were just saying, which is you were the first sitar player to receive the Royal Philharmonic Society's Best Instrumentalist Award. And I think it is a monumental achievement considering you said Beethoven was...
Yeah, they're the society that commissioned Beethoven.
That's nuts.
150 years ago.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it's a very prestigious.
Yeah.
So I'm the first British Asian as well musician to win one. I think
you must be the first singer as well to have won one.
Yeah, I think that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
yeah,
first thing, which is good.
That's mad, man.
Good,
That's good. But I remember being at school or whatever and getting even when I went to university, I got a scholarship and a grant because I'd got whatever in my A levels, and I was like, I can't be the first thing who have won this, man. There's plenty of things who come to this university, and I always find it interesting because in my head that's the way is this a sign? Because actually we're such a minority, and then to be a minority in the minority, you're doing something.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2024, you won that. All right, so 4 questions. Which one should we try and wrap up with? Let's go with these 2. First one is, looking back on your journey thus far, what moments stand out as particularly transformative, and how have they shaped your artistic vision or kind of your view of where you want to go? just to put you on the spot with the easy one.
That's really tough. I think one of the most like transformative things. So when I was 18, I took part in this BBC documentary called Goldie's Band by Royal Appointment. So they got like 12 young musicians together.
I'm going to dig this out now. Yeah, go on.
Mate, yeah. But they did. We did a concert at Buckingham Palace for Prince Harry. So that was the culmination.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I know. So this is before I went to. This is in my gap year before university. So I remember doing that. But I remember being part of that project with all these other musicians, from different genres and stuff. Then I was like, this is the transformative power of music. Then that was the time where I was like, I want to make this my career. I want to go win this full thing because I love doing this. That was one of the transformative moments of my life. That's
amazing.
And even then, even in Goldie's Band, I was like, I had like a 10-second window to play whatever I was going to play in that whole concert.
But you played it with your heart, though.
Yeah, definitely. So but I remember just being part of that experience with all these other young musicians as well who are a similar age to me. Really kind of, and us actually playing together in different genres and things. So it meant that I could say something that was rooted in my tradition and but still be part of that same kind of thing. So
wider collective.
So I still see myself and ourselves. I said this when I did my speech and that when I got the award. Is that I see Indian classical music as part of the fabric of classical music in this country. We're part of it because Ravi Shankar used to come in the 60s, in the 70s, Vilayat Khan Sahib used to come. There's so many settled here. We're all taxpayers. I grew up here. I didn't grow up in India. No. I learned all my music in this country. So we're part of the fabric, if you like it or not, but we are classical music.
We're there. You can't do nothing now.
Well, so it's like kind of we're a family. That's how I see it. So I think that was a really pivotal moment. Just not like obviously the BBC thing was good and Buckingham Palace was good, but just the experience for me was really transformative.
No, definitely. The last one, and this isn't the last of our questions, but it's the last one for today because we're going to get kicked out in a minute. What guidance would you offer to young musicians who aim to innovate with traditional art forms, or actually just forget that? What advice would you give to? Actually, let me rephrase this. What advice would you give to yourself at 16, 18, I don't know, pick a point where you're quite young, you're just starting out, you're just kind of getting an idea, I don't know, maybe you've done a few lessons actually go back to primary school, you've done a few lessons at primary school or whatever. Like, what would your advice be to someone who is considering trying to make music a career, a profession, or, I don't know, study at university or something like that? Like, what are your like top 3 or whatever kind of bits of advice?
One, practice. Get good at your craft. Just try to be the best. Just no compromise. Practice to be the best you can be. Get the talim, the training that you need to be able to do that, and don't give up on that. Don't ever let that slide. But also, in the same thing, you're a business as well. Being a musician, a successful music is a business, and in our industry, in Indian classical music, you're taught to be humble. You touch the feet. Humility is a really big thing. But all the top musicians, you can be humble, but you also have to be.
You still have to pay your bills.
Yeah, you have to have I think more like an entrepreneur.
Yes. And
there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with have ambition, but don't be ambitious. That kind of paradigm. So I would say, be business savvy. You see yourself as a business, and the same amount of effort you put into your riyaz and your practice, put into building a sustainable career for you. That means networking. That means getting out and finding ways to communicate your music over to people to make them understand why they should invest in you. That's a very, very important tool to have. And if you can have them too, you can be the best at what you do, but also can communicate that over to other people. Then you're laughing.
So you won't have seen this bit in the video if you've made it this far, because I had to cut it out. But he mentioned something really cool he's going to do in a couple of years, which I can't mention, nor can he. And so just keep an eye out on his socials and whatever. I'm sure we'll hear about it very soon. But that's 2027, if I remember correctly, which is 2 years away. So between now and then, what do you have in the pipeline?
Okay.
Because there's going to be a hell of a lot.
Yeah, there's quite a lot. So I am. What's imminent is that I've been commissioned by BBC Symphony Orchestra and BBC Concert Orchestra. So I'm playing with, and that's do you know how I said sitar concerto, where you have sitar soloist and orchestra?
Yeah.
This time I'm having 5 soloists who are so basically Gurteen Raya, who's a tabla player, Kirbal Panesar, who plays Esraj, myself, and Kaviraj Singh, who plays santoor, and Upneet Singh, who plays tabla. So 5 of us with orchestra. So it's a 15-minute piece, and that's going to be played in Bradford at St George's Hall in June. And then I'm playing at Queen Elizabeth Hall in London at South Bank in July. So that's kind of so it's written. I've just finished it, so it's written now, and I've submitted that. So we're just going to rehearse and do that. And then later on in the year, I've got 4 concerts in Germany, which are orchestral concerts. I'm playing aria. Then I'm going to Geneva. I'm playing in Finland, and I'm playing in Amsterdam as well.
When are you going to Amsterdam?
Amsterdam, I'm going in September 13th, I think. Then after September, I think I may be releasing a new album, but then I have, I can't remember off the top of my head now. But yeah, they're the imminent ones. The imminent ones are the ones, yeah.
No, thank you. All I can say is I don't think we had enough time today because there is so much more that I'd love to talk to you about. I think the more that I talk to you, the more I want to keep talking because there is just so much. And I just think this is also the fun of it because I obviously have my interest and passion in history. I've never as I said earlier, I'm basically musically deaf. So to hear the insights that you can bring is just brilliant. And I genuinely... So I think yesterday I was going through... So I'm really badly organized, right? And yesterday I was going through and I was retallying the list of from episode 1 to where we are today. And I realized we'd surpassed 100 episodes months ago, right? Like months and months ago. And then doing that, I've spoken to 80... I think you're the 87th person I've spoken to today, right? And that's been people who are doctors, professors, academics, collectors... sports people, comedians, you name it. I think you're the first musician that we've had, which is amazing. And doing it all, I've come to kind of not figure people out, but I think the biggest impression I get from you is there is such genuine passion and care for what you do. And that's rare to come by. And you can tell very quickly. And genuinely, all I can give you is best wishes and ardas because I would love to see where you get in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And actually, I hope at whatever point we talk next, maybe it will be in a few years, maybe it will be quicker, sooner, who knows. But having the infrastructure that you want, because I really think that you would love to get it to a point where you'd be like, yeah, I think I've established an infrastructure that can really help everyone move forward.
Yeah.
And that's rare. That's rare to see. So
and that has to come from other people as well,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
We need people.
You need a community, people to work with you, yeah.
And they are people. Sandeep from Darbar is doing such a fantastic job, but there needs to be more.
Yeah.
It can't just be that one opportunity. There needs to be a lot more.
And hence why things like this and the networking really help. So I just want to say thank you. You've driven all the way down from Leeds. I think by the time you go home, you will definitely have been in the car longer than you would have been in the podcast. So I can only just say thank you and appreciate you so much. And I just, from the bottom of my heart, I wish you all the best in the future. And you'll definitely be included in my ardas because the work that you're doing is just... This is why I enjoy it, because I get to network with people like you. So
and likewise as well.
Thank
Keep
you.
up the good work.
Thank you. It means a lot.
It's important to... If we don't support ourselves, who else is?
Yeah, completely.
That's
completely. And it all started off with the same intention that you were saying, which is if you want to see change, then go and do it.
Go do it.
And here we are. So yeah, thank you.
Cool.
Thank you, man.
It gets a bit hot, doesn't it?
It does get warm in here, innit? The last time I did it, unfortunately, I wore my joggers, and so about 30 minutes in, I was like, fuck.
Oh, that was good, man. Yeah, was it alright?
Yeah, that was perfect.
Yeah.
That was really nice. I'd like to keep it